Hey everyone, it is Tanya. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new here. Today I'm back with another speed build and another installment of the squish, which is what we call tiny homes here on the channel, as you're kind of squishing everything into a smaller space. This is going to be sort of just like a modern beachside tiny house, and it's a bit of a trust the process build, as I had a completely different idea going into it, but as I was building, it sort of evolved into more just simple modern beach tiny home. But the original idea was to create something that was more off the grid. So that's why it changes around so much, and I had a heavy focus on solar panels at first, which I do keep in the end result. They're just not the primary focus. And I didn't pick furnishings based on it being an off the grid house, because it's not. However, if you'd like to see an off the grid tiny house sometime soon, let me know what you would like to see in regards to that, like what sort of style you would anticipate, and if that's something you would like to see. And hopefully we can bring that to the channel sometime soon. And if you do like this build and you'd like to download it, it is available right now on the Sims 4 gallery. You can find it under my EA ID, which is Gryphi, Gryphi. You could also find it under the hashtag Gryphi, and that information will also be in the description down below as well. So the shape you see right now is similar to the final shape. I'm going to be changing the windows and adjusting the roofline a little bit, but it is essentially this shape. I really liked the idea of having some of these vertical panels. I also really liked the idea of having more sculptural windows in the front. I just ended up changing them in the end and going with these ones from the Greenhouse Haven kit instead. I just thought they brought in a lot more light and went more in the direction that I was leaning towards at this point, of just having a cute modern beach tiny house. So I added those, and then I am starting to play around with the colors of this house. It ends up being a lot of different shades of white, brown, and black throughout this process, but we do get there in the end, and here are the solar panels I had mentioned. At this point, I was still kind of going back and forth on whether or not this was going to be an off-the-grid tiny house or not, so I am playing around with the idea. Here is the roof that I add to the middle section to adjust the roof line ever so slightly so it's not so entirely flat. And I really am glad that I did that, because it was just looking a little bit too boxy, which I sometimes like, but for some reason on this build I did not. So just playing around with that roof, painting the flat roof pieces a darker color, and then also trying some metal on the outside. I go back and forth so much with the colors on this one, because I really did want it to be off the grid at first, and then I started leaning more industrial, and then that didn't really make sense, and it was a whole thing, but I decided it was such a short build I would keep in the process and show you the realistic side of building, which is indecisiveness. At least that's very realistic for me. And if you've ever been to any of my Twitch streams, you've probably seen it in real time. And this is just a condensed version of that. Right now I'm just working on landscaping though, and then we are starting to figure out the floor plan. I decided to have a kitchen where it was like 2 tiles on each wall, and there's a walkthrough in the middle. You'll see what I mean. It's a little bit of a different shape than I typically do for tiny houses, but I thought that that made it more interesting for the floor plan. So right now I am laying that out. You can see the counters are going to be on 2 walls, and then we have a bathroom like right on the entry. I then end up having a little bump out right behind the kitchen. That's additional space in the bedroom area, which is sort of open concept to the living room. So it's more like a studio inside this space, which I thought was quite realistic for a tiny house, and I quite enjoyed. I used some more of those vertical paneling pieces to separate this space without having a full wall, and then we are starting to pick out the flooring, which I do change. I go for a darker wood in the end as we adjust the exterior, but as I had mentioned before, I was very indecisive here. So we are playing around with the different wall textures. I grabbed this concrete one, which I think is from the Industrial Loft kit, but I might be wrong on that. And then I am starting to paint the outside some more colors. So we go with more of an orangey wood tone, and then I bring that in and change that on our kitchen counters, and I will also be changing that on the flooring as well to try to make it feel more cohesive with what the outside looks like. With that, I changed the swatch of the front door so that it matched more with the inside, but also brought another color to the exterior. And I actually paired the upper head cabinets from Home Chef Hustle with these base game industrial ones, as I really don't like the base game upper heads for this set, but I desperately wanted to use these counters. I also ended up using the appliances from that kit, but I don't think I used the sink. No, I didn't. And then here is the flooring I do end up keeping, which is from Eco Lifestyle. I think it's a really nice modern orange wood floor, and I grabbed a sofa from actually Nifty Knitting. I thought that the colors, like the beige of this, was very simple, and it has the same wood tone on the legs of the furniture as I have on the floors and in the kitchen. And then I decided to bring in some natural materials with this really pretty pendant light. Above the sofa, I also did place a couple of these posters from a variety of locations. I believe these came with Growing Together, and I placed one for both Mount Gomoribi and Windenburg, as I liked the idea that maybe the sim that lives here is living in a tiny home to save on costs so that they can travel, because that's a passion of theirs. At this point, the room was still feeling a little bit too cold, so I did paint the wall behind the sofa with a orangey colored wallpaper or paint. I believe that one's from the Fitness Stuff pack, and then I also grabbed a table sort of situation to put the TV on. It's the cube shelf that came with the Comfy Gamer kit. And I really liked that in that space. I think it allows for so much customization to add whatever clutter you would like to a space. And I am also picking out the bed and the rug for the bedroom space as well, and adding an additional window in there. I also really enjoyed the curtains that I used in here. I believe they're from Eco Lifestyle. They're sort of like a minty color, which was a color I leaned into heavily in this build. We have the orange wood tones, lots of stone, and then there are blues and green, like minty greens in here. I thought it was a fun color scheme. It's not one I typically go for. On the bedside table here, I did get a bunch of items from Comfy Gamer, including this little picture frame, an open book, a like water bottle or like boba cup. And I also grabbed one of my favorite plants in the game. And then this little nook was perfect for a one-tile dresser. So I am just adding that in here with a couple of decor pieces to make the space feel more lived in. And that should be it for the bedroom area. But I haven't cluttered up that cube shelf in the living room yet. So we're going to do that now with a variety of books and knickknacks and things. Just want to make it feel realistic and lived in. And I love the idea of having additional storage space in a tiny home like this. So I wanted to utilize that. So I did get a bunch of these baskets down on the bottom from Dream Home Decorator as like linen storage. And then in the kitchen, I did get a couple of decorations in here as well. I wanted to make sure there was a range hood up above the stove. I, of course, had to add the cutting boards in the little amount of wall space that we had. There's some soap by the sink, and I added this like drying rack next to the sink as well, a little bit further up the wall. That one is from the Cool Kitchen Stuff Pack. Not Cool Kitchen, Home Chef Hustle. I was like, it's the kitchen one. And I said the wrong name. But anyway, this is the entryway. It's a one-tile space that leads you into the bathroom or the kitchen. And I just wanted to have a little painting, a place to hang up your keys, take off your shoes, and of course the umbrella rack, which I always put by my front doors in The Sims. I just think it's nice that it's a decorative piece, but it's also functional if you have seasons. Anyway, this is the final room of this house. It is our bathroom. I just have a standing shower in here, but I wasn't imagining there were any toddlers, infants, or cats or dogs that might need a bath in here. So I thought it was fine to have a standing shower. But of course, if that changes, you could either renovate the house or add a bathtub outside if it's for a dog. That's always an option. But I did keep this room pretty simple, using the same colors that I'm using throughout the rest of the space, with those blues and that minty green. I love those together. I feel like I'm going to want to use that color scheme more now that I've experimented with it here. And then we are outside finishing up our landscaping. I got a variety of plants, some that I see in the background of this lot, others that I don't, just ones that I thought would look nice here. And I also just remembered that I didn't have the fire alarm or the thermostat. So I popped back inside to get those and add a little rug in the kitchen, as well as a welcome mat outside and our mailbox. And I don't remember where I put the trash can. I'm assuming I just kind of hid it behind the house. I tend to do that on these lots where there's not really a clear spot to put them, and I feel like it would be an eyesore in the front. So I probably hid it. I also used some of these fences that are in Shalivated objects from Cats and Dogs that look like they're falling down around the perimeter of the lot. It just felt very realistic for the area, and I loved it. So I'm adding those now, kind of like wrapping around one of the sides, and I'll be getting a couple more plants, just trying to really make it feel like it fits in on this beachfront property. I realize that sounds kind of funny, wanting a rundown fence to fit into a beachfront property, but you can see what I mean. We're in Brindleton Bay, we're near the beach. It's like a New England beach. It's rocky, and there are seasons here, so it gets quite cold. And so I think this is pretty realistic and definitely something I've experienced, not like a tiny house on the beach, but this sort of greenery and things like that, as I am from New England. So I have a soft spot in my heart for Brindleton Bay. I love building in this area. But yeah, we're just finishing up some of our terrain paint. I'm going to get some rocks leading up to the front of the lot. I used these ones from the Riviera Retreat kit, mostly because I don't use them very often. I tend to prefer the base game debug ones instead. So I decided to give these a go, especially because they come in a swatch that matches the rocks I was using on the rest of the property. But that is it. I really hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. You can also subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more, and click that bell to be notified when I upload. And a massive thank you to my YouTube members for all of your support. If you'd like to become a member yourself, you can click the link in the description or the join button below the video. Please enjoy those screenshots, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, everyone.